I mean, their offense looked ridiculous. There was probably 20 times where the shot clock got 3 to 5 seconds, and they could never, and it was still out past the three-point line.
Game 2 between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Golden State Warriors had fans glued to their screens, but for all the wrong reasons if you're a Golden State fan. From the opening tip-off, the Timberwolves were locked in, and key NBA voices like Karen Butler, Shaquille O'Neal, and Charles Barkley had a lot to say about the collapse of the Warriors and the rise of the Wolves. This was not just about stats or scores. It was about energy, execution, and mindset. And honestly, Golden State looked lost without their leader on the court. In this episode, we're breaking down what the legends had to say and how this game might mark a turning point in the series. Before we dive deep, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop your predictions in the comments, and turn on the notification bell. This is NBA Showdown, and you don't want to miss what's next. Karen Butler opened the post-game reactions by praising the Wolves' offensive rhythm and composure. He specifically pointed out how guys like Walker, Reed, and Randall stepped up, even in the absence of Steph Curry on the floor. What Karen appreciated most was how the Timberwolves responded to the moment. It was not just about scoring points. It was about how they positioned themselves, how they shared the ball, and how each player seemed to understand their role perfectly. The game wasn't dictated by stars alone. It was defined by the second-tier players who played like stars. Butler's point was that the Wolves didn't just win, they asserted dominance through precision, and that precision came from the entire unit, not just their marquee names. This kind of performance speaks volumes about their preparation and mental toughness. When a team comes in without fear, plays with balance, and executes like that, they are hard to beat, no matter who they are facing. Shaquille O'Neal chimed in with a more cautionary tone. He made it clear that this result was expected based on the direction the Warriors have been heading without Steph Curry. Shaq acknowledged that the Timberwolves did what they were supposed to do, but he also hinted at underperformance from key figures on both sides. Specifically, he mentioned how Anthony Edwards could have played better, and how Jimmy, likely referring to a player known for stepping up in big moments, did not show the aggression needed. Shaq emphasized the risk Golden State is facing without Steph, and how that ankle injury casts a huge shadow over their playoff hopes. For a team that relies so heavily on his playmaking and leadership, losing him even temporarily exposes every flaw in their system. Shaq's overall message was simple. The Timberwolves are solid, but Golden State is vulnerable, and if Curry stays out, the series could be over before it even starts to heat up.
Minutes of the game.
Yeah, they came out like we expected them to do.
Our first 5 minutes.
Yeah, first 5 minutes, 13-0. Listen, we expect them to do that. I expected Ant to have a better game than he had. I expected them to play well. They were at home. They knew they let one get away. So, I expected this. And I have to agree with Chuck. Golden State's going to be in trouble if Steph doesn't come back. I thought Jimmy was going to be a little bit more.
Shaq followed up his initial thoughts by diving deeper into individual effort, particularly focusing on Jimmy's approach. What stood out was his critique of the shot volume. Shaq was very clear that if you see yourself as the go-to guy, 13 shots in a playoff game simply does not cut it. He drew a line between two versions of Jimmy, one who penetrates and takes control, and another who plays in short bursts without taking full responsibility. This analysis is important because it shows that even players who are known for their talent can fall into the trap of passivity. In the playoffs, there is no room for hesitancy. Every possession matters. And Shaq's frustration stemmed from watching someone with the ability to dominate simply fade into the background. It's a reminder that playoff basketball is about asserting yourself, not waiting for the game to come to you. If Jimmy doesn't recognize that soon, his team could suffer the consequences.
I said before the game, there's two types of Jimmy. There's one that likes to penetrate, get guys involved, and then there's one that, for small spurts, he can take over a game. But 13 shots, I don't think is enough. And the other guy, I think he needs to be up in that 20.
Karen Butler shifted focus to the way Minnesota defended Buddy Hield, and it was a masterclass in defensive planning. What Butler pointed out was the use of fresh, active, and long defenders who could stay with Buddy through every movement. This was not a defensive performance relying on one guy shutting him down. It was a coordinated team effort that rotated bodies and refused to give Hield the kind of space he usually thrives in. Buddy is known for his catch-and-shoot game, and Minnesota simply didn't give him those clean looks. They disrupted his rhythm and forced him into uncomfortable spots. Karen's breakdown highlighted something that often gets overlooked. Defensive rotations and matchups are just as vital as offensive sets. Minnesota treated Buddy like a threat and adjusted accordingly. That kind of discipline speaks volumes about their preparation and mentality. When a team comes in with that level of awareness and execution on defense, they are signaling that they are here for the long haul. Karen Butler returned to the offensive side of things and pointed out how the Timberwolves used their early momentum to ignite the crowd and maintain control. Having a 13-point lead might not seem seem like much, but it was how they got it that mattered. The Wolves were aggressive, sharp, and most importantly, confident. Butler did not ignore the fact that Anthony Edwards could still elevate his offensive game, but the overall execution was more than enough to get the job done. This segment showed how crowd energy and momentum can take a team over the top, especially when they play smart basketball. You could feel the game tilting heavily in favor of Minnesota early on, and they never really let Golden State get comfortable. What Karen was really trying to say is that playoff wins like these are built on intangibles as much as they are on talent. Energy, urgency, and focus were all in the Timberwolves' corner, and they used it. Charles Barkley did not hold back when it came to evaluating the Warriors' offense. He described it as frustrating and ineffective, pointing out that the shot clock violations and last-second heaves were happening far too often. That level of disorganization is not just on the players. It reflects a system that lacks leadership and composure. Charles noted how repeatedly the Warriors were settling for long, difficult shots with no real direction or ball movement. Instead of playing the brand of basketball Golden State is known for, they looked scattered and rushed. Barkley's breakdown is important because it speaks to something larger than one game. It reflects a pattern. When you are in the playoffs, structure is everything. You cannot afford to be improvising late in the clock. The Warriors' inability to execute even basic offensive sets shows just how disconnected they are without Steph leading the floor. And in the playoffs, that kind of chaos gets punished.
I mean, their offense looked ridiculous. There was probably 20 times where the shot clock got 3 to 5 seconds, and they could never, and it was still out past the three-point line.
Charles Barkley built on his criticism by talking about what he actually saw from Golden State's lineup. He acknowledged that certain players like Kuminga and Trayce Jackson-Davis did their job well when given minutes, but his bigger issue was how the team as a whole looked disjointed and reactive. They were running isolation plays that led nowhere and often found themselves taking wild shots. Barkley's evaluation painted a clear picture. There was no chemistry. It looked like 5 individuals on the court instead of a unit with a game plan. Even when certain substitutions worked, it did not change the overall narrative that Golden State was scrambling rather than scheming. When Charles says a team looked like they were just running around, he means they lacked purpose. And that is exactly how the Warriors played in Game 2. No flow, no direction, just desperation. And in the postseason, that is how games and series are lost.
That's what they looked like. They were just running around trying to go one-on-one, and it wasn't good enough. And Steve put Kuminga in, and he played well. Trayce Davis played well. But their offense was so disjointed.
The Game 2 clash between the Timberwolves and the Warriors revealed some harsh truths. Minnesota came in with a game plan, executed it, and kept their foot on the gas. From defending shooters like Buddy Hield to energizing the crowd and controlling the momentum, they looked every bit the team that wanted it more. On the other side, Golden State stumbled through possessions, struggled without Steph, and couldn't find answers on either end of the court. As Karen, Shaq, and Charles made clear, this was not just a bad game, it was a warning sign. Without leadership, coordination, and consistency, even a team with championship DNA can crumble. If the Warriors do not regroup fast and fix their offensive structure, this series could be slipping out of their hands already. Minnesota proved they are not just here to compete, they are here to dominate. If you found this breakdown insightful, hit that like button, subscribe to NBA Showdown, and ring the bell so you never miss a post-game reaction or deep dive. Let us know your take in the comments. Who do you think takes Game 3? We'll catch you in the next one.